It's now time to start, or to call our meeting of the Bullitt County Board of Commissioners to order. I'd like to welcome our media and visitors. I'd also like to remind everyone to silence their cell phones and other devices so that we may conduct the public's business without interruption. I'm also going to ask as a sign of commitment to our other commissioners and the constituents that are present that our county commissioners take their cell phones and pass them over here to the right. Commissioner Ray Davis, will you lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please?
May we pray? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the United States of America. We thank you for our county. We ask you to bless our country and our county. If it's thy will, give us more rain for our crops. Be with our servicemen overseas that are protecting our freedom. And most importantly, God, forgive us of our many sins. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Miss Mincy White, will you call the roll of the commissioners, please?
Yes, sir. I, Venus Mincy White, present as clerk of the Board of the Commissioners, hereby call the roll for those on the governing body. All those present shall answer by saying aye. Chairman David Bennett.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Anthony Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Ray Mosley.
Aye.
Commissioner Toby Connor. Commissioner Nick Newkirk.
Aye.
Commissioner Timmy Rushing.
Aye.
And Commissioner Ray Davis.
Aye.
I've determined that we have 6 members of the Board of Commissioners present. Therefore, we have a quorum to conduct the business for the good of the citizens of Bullitt County. I now give the floor back to you, Chairman.
Thank you. Before I entertain a motion to approve the general agenda, do we have any discussion or modification desired by the county manager or the board? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a motion to approve the general agenda, please.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion from Mr. Rushing. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Got a second from Mr. Simmons. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. I'm going to go off the reservation with these presentations a little bit, switch this up. I'm going to ask our E911 director, Ms. Kelly Bernard, and our assistant county manager, well, he's not here today, is he? Okay, so it's just you, Kelly, and Ms. Denise Brown, if she'd come up to the podium, please.
And it's on the podium.
Everybody, this is Denise Brown. She has been one of our employees for 17 years. She has retired as of Friday, 17 years of service at the 911 Center. That's pretty amazing. She's kind of the one that we would call the mother of 911. She may not be old enough to be my mother, but she's definitely old enough to be most of them mother or even grandmother. She has, she's one of these that we walk in the morning and there may be a breakfast casserole baked. There could be 5 dozen eggs sitting up there because she's brought them to share with the others. But as far as work goes, she's also the one that has helped us a lot with, sometimes there are some things that are kind of hard to understand. There's lots and lots of processes, and she's been one who we have got numerous, I would call them guides, as to how to do something a little bit easier, a little bit faster, and she's really the one that has done that for us. So we are going to miss Miss Denise. Yes, I'm going to miss your breakfast casseroles and the other things that you cook. I'm going to miss her eggs, although I guess I'll go out there to visit you at your house. But congratulations on retiring, and we hope you have a wonderful, long, long, long retirement. Thank you.
Plaque for you is a small token of our appreciation for your service to the county. Let me put my glasses on so I can see here. It says, this certificate is proudly presented to Ms. Denise Brown in recognition of and gratitude for your 17 years of dedication and service to the Bullock, Candler, and Evans 911 Center. Your unwavering commitment, exemplary work, and invaluable contributions will have a lasting impact on all of the lives you have touched within the community and amongst your colleagues through the years. Now, I'll tell you, if you ever go to the 911 center and you're sitting there for about 10 minutes and you're not crazy, it's a miracle. Because they only have about 37 phone calls a second that are coming in there. And these folks, they get in there and they handle it with grace and poise. We appreciate your service to the community and to your coworkers as well. I will tell you that personally, I'm jealous. I can't wait till the day that I can finally retire. And I hope that you have the opportunity to enjoy it and make the best of it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. And we're gonna take some pictures now. Just need you to hold that. I have to take my glasses off my head.
Commissioners to stand up.
I'm gonna try not to do it too much.
Three.
Gotta worry about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So next up, we're going to have Mr. James Pope come up and talk to us a little bit. And the intent here is just to continue this ongoing discussion that we've had about data centers. When we started our moratorium almost 6 months ago, one of the things that we asked Mr. Pope and the planning and zoning staff to do was start looking into some zoning regulations that we could put in place to make sure that not only we are protecting the people of the county, but we're making a clear rule book for folks that are looking at putting something like this in the county as far as what they could be allowed to do. So he's going to come up and discuss the draft that he has so far, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. Again, I'm James Pope. I'm the Planning and Development Director for Bullitt County. And I will trust that most of you all have read through the ordinance text that was submitted to the packet. So I won't go through in extensive detail of what the text says, but I'll, again, hit the highlights and really what the concerns for data centers have been nationally, locally, and then, how does this ordinance address those issues? Dal, I think you're going to have to. Okay. So just to establish what data centers are, this is the definition that the text calls for, but it can be a physical room, just like the closet there. It's got a server rack, several servers that run this audio equipment and other things. It can be a building the size of an industrial building, or in the city of Dublin, probably about 10 years ago, they had someone come in and put a data center under their old post office, the historic post office. So they turned that into a data center. So they range pretty widely in scale. And then for the most part, I think what most people have concerns about with data centers are the larger industrial scale, what we call hyperscale developments that are, can be over 1,000-acre developments. But to illustrate what they are, this is inside a data center in Virginia. But again, it's just a shell of a building that houses these servers that run computer computations and data storage for many different reasons and for different companies. But there are pros and cons to data centers. Probably one of the best the greatest pros for a community could be lower property tax rates. And so there's a lot of communities out there now that are getting data centers that are basically doing away with their homestead property taxes. And Some of those are here in Georgia. And so, data centers have been around for a long time, for several decades. Northern Virginia is kind of the epicenter of data centers. And so in the planning world, they're doing a lot of things to, really show how data centers can work in cohesion with the neighboring communities. They have had some problems over time, but they're working, and I think they've mitigated a lot of that. So, but the cons, of course, there are potential environmental issues if you don't put guardrails on data centers. But one thing for a community that, we see a lot of housing growth, data centers are not a tremendous job creator that's going to bring many people in the community to use our services. It would bring, those jobs are fairly high paying, but there's not many jobs created at the end of a data center once it's in place. But that's less infrastructure pressure for us with much higher property taxes that we would collect. So what are the issues? This list is commonly what you'll see out in the public, or what people want to talk about. You have potential for noise, the power consumption, the water use, the downstream discharge. So what's going into the sewers, and is it going discharged off-site? Is it going to a wastewater treatment plant? You have land use and land conversion. So, if you have farmland that gets converted over to the industrial side, that's something that you have to weigh in housing growth, industrial growth. That's just part of growth. You just have to weigh those concerns. Some communities have addressed if a data center were abandoned, what would you do with it? Some communities, again, have placed clauses in their ordinance to take care of the waste afterwards. And there's air quality and emissions that are commonly brought up. So our ordinance attempts to address each of those items minus the power consumption. The power consumption obviously is not something that a local government has much control over unless you're a city that has its own electrical company, but the MEAG cities. But this ordinance, again, with land use, I believe that if you put the right parameters in the ordinance, make them stringent enough, you could definitely allow by right data centers to come to certain locations. And so the ordinance proposes a certain overlay district, which is identified in several maps in the ordinance that maybe you take a look at. But it's not that any property in Bullitt County would be available to rezone into a data center. So I think that by placing the use in an overlay zone should alleviate some concerns that you may just have a data center pop up next door to you. If you go ahead, and we have plenty of time. I've never actually talked to a data center developer that was interested in coming to Bullitt County, but so you have time to decide where those locations would be. The ordinance also looks at smaller scale highway commercial zone properties and having that as a conditional use. That's where you're getting into, it could be next to a retail location. I'll show you some examples from Virginia where a house could be as close as the building behind us. And so there's a lot of different examples on how you could do it, but a conditional use in a highway commercial zone, I believe, could be appropriate in the overlaid district. We're not talking Main Street, Statesboro, or anything like that, just in these certain areas. Design standards, that's something that commonly, I think we will, in short time, be a little more stringent in our industrial developments overall and how we treat how, an industrial building looks. But we've set standards in this ordinance that really addresses what a data center would look like. We wouldn't necessarily want a concrete block, square sitting in the middle of, something attractive, I guess what I'm trying to say. We can go ahead and outline all those in the ordinance now, which I think we have, and show that it'll be an asset to the community visually. So it's not going to take away from the character of the neighborhood any, as well as if it's an industrial area, it's going to match the general character. We do look at some height restrictions and how the building is set up from the closer it is to the road, a lower height, and then as it steps back, you could go up in height. The noise and air quality, so the ordinance places limits on when a generator could be used. There's probably some opportunity there for revisions to specify when a generator could be used, but this ordinance says that it can only be used in emergency uses. So if the power's out for that data center, you could use the generator, but only test in certain times of the day. And then we established decibel levels, not only the dBA levels, which like Columbia County, they have a dBA level of 70. We place in here at different times of the day, but 55 and 60. So we're exceeding what most communities would have in their ordinance. And going back to cryptocurrency mining that this board addressed several years ago, in about 21 or 23 or 22, we wrote probably what I think is Georgia's first cryptocurrency mining ordinance, where we worked with a sound engineer in Atlanta to develop testing or how you test for decibels in industrial noises related to cryptocurrency mining, which is a data center. It also applies here. And we've seen that the test and that language, that model ordinance that we wrote, adopted in really all over the Southeast, where we've have contacted and consulted with different communities. So we feel pretty good about that standard that we have in the ordinance. The light and glare, of course, any industrial sized property, that's always a concern. But use of downcast lighting, that can alleviate that concern. Landscape buffering, I won't get into the details of that, but it is in the ordinance on how we would treat the data centers. Water use, we would require a closed loop system. Essentially acts like a car radiator. You fill it up, it recirculates, and there's some water loss over time. They have maintenance on the water that they would have to do, but data centers can get a pretreatment license from EPD. We would require that data centers go on a municipal water and sewer system. So as long as in this county, Statesboro, or if Bullitt County, whenever we got into water and sewer, whoever the provider may be, but as long as it's a municipal water system, then we have the control over how much water they're going to use, what the capacity is, and can we serve them and their anticipated usage amount. So you'll see more so out west, I think, but the use of evaporative cooling, that's where you read about the very intensive water use. But with a closed loop system, I think we can satisfy most people's concerns about the water use. Where we have the control, we would prohibit private wells on the data center properties, so they couldn't just get a account with us and then go drill their own well. We would limit that. Downstream discharge, of course, we have our typical soil erosion and sedimentation process that we go through in any development, but also as a lot of industrial properties create, there is potential for increased heat runoff, rainstorm comes, the water being discharged just off-site. All that's gone through in the development process, but use of retention or detention ponds in that can mitigate some of the downstream discharge concerns. The ordinance does look at a 500-foot setback when the property is an industrial zone property. So 500 feet from the building, I guess the building line, the edge of a building, to the adjacent property would have to be 500 feet. So otherwise, it would be 350 feet. That's a number that exceeds probably most communities' ordinances that have been established. But if you want to make it greater, that's something you can always do. That's just, again, what's in this ordinance today is for conversation purposes. I'm not asking for any vote or anything like that. It's, again, to get your input and for education, I guess. Opportunities to strengthen the text here. Again, I mentioned just clearly stating a limitation on private wells on site for the data centers. And then the cessation of operations, that's a copy paste out of what Columbia County near Augusta. That's what they have in their ordinance. But basically, if they cease to operate, then you could make them revert the property back to the way it was. So the list of issues I've started with, of those, I think this ordinance addresses all but the power grid, and that being a Georgia Power or Georgia Transmission Company issue or thing. I can say that they go through extensive studies, and it's required that data centers pay their way into the infrastructure. So the rate increases would not be attributed to a data center that would come here. This is from the ordinance. It's basically a design of how a data center should look. What we would suggest is facade guidelines and setback guidelines, use of berms, vegetative buffers, things of that nature. And then, again, having a different look about the building rather than just a concrete box sitting there. So the maps included in the draft ordinance. This one here shows green areas that, if you look at where power is possible for the high voltage that data centers would be required or that are required for data centers, that's really the main limitation on data centers. You can work out the land use stuff, site by site or site by area, but if you don't have the power, it's going to be very difficult to have a data center in Bullitt County. The areas shown in red, those are, I'm not a Georgia Power person, so I generally speak, but it's like 115 kV line. So those are, high voltage lines, but Georgia Power typically likes to serve data centers on I think it's the 230 kV line, which is the purple line, and hopefully y'all can see it on your screen. But so Bullitt County only has one that goes basically right across the county. It has some proximity to the gateway on 301 Industrial Park, of which we know that I think the industrial park only has one site available that, where they could go, but possible redevelopment over time for industrial properties into a data center, that's more along the lines of thinking for placing it there. You got 301 and 16. There's where the TAD is, but anyway, so that's where power lines are in proximity. I'm not suggesting that's where they have to go, but there's limitations outside of the power and then potential industrial areas there. So, and then we talk about where should they go. This is from Haystack, Virginia. As you see, the red areas, the circled areas there, those are data centers. What's circled there in yellow, that's a residential, I think a townhouse development, but it's very close. It's shown by this picture here. And it kind of looks AI, but that's a real picture where, again, there's just a stream that separates the two. Here you got Ashburn, Virginia, which is Loudoun County, Virginia, epicenter of data centers for many decades. Red, again, is demonstrating the data center and then the proximity to residential areas in yellow. They're building houses right next door to them. I'm not suggesting that's how this should be done, but that's how some are doing it. A Target within probably less than a mile from it. So there's shopping centers and all in relative close proximity to data centers. And they've had them for multiple decades up there. They keep building them in Virginia. So this is an example. It's probably a little hard to see, but this is a Google Street View of one. You know, they have their buffer. It's pretty close to the road. So you can imagine with a 350-foot distance setback, you're not going. It won't even look like that. You probably won't be able to make it out very well with the right buffering and all. This is in Social Circle off of I-20. We actually visited this one. It's a Meta data center, and this one is set so far off the road, you can't even tell what it is. And when we visited there, you could barely hear it. So anyways, that's about all I have. Just to say, it really boils down to where do we think they should go. I think you can put the parameters in place to regulate them. The ordinance we can go back and strengthen it up where we feel like we've identified a few places to do that. And I've spoken with different parties about data centers and gotten some pretty good feedback as well. So with that, sorry if I ran long, but do y'all have any questions for me?
You said there's one in the city of Dublin?
There was one at the old post office in Dublin when I worked over there about 10 years ago.
Okay. How much did the property taxes lower up there because of that one?
That I'm not sure.
All right. Like noise complaints and all that stuff, what happens after they get running, after they get the CO and the noise shoots on up above 70 or 60 or whatever we got?
Of course, we have in the ordinance an annual compliance report that they would have to file with us. And we do the same with cell towers. We send them they have to pay a little fee each year, but we could be, whatever the fee would be, we could have that compliance report required. Of course, the noise studies. And then if you get the complaint, code enforcement, zoning staff can go out there and get the instrumentation or order a test. I mean, we would enforce it just like any other noise.
You can fine them, you can make them post a bond ahead of time too, that you.
Well, I mean, these are multi-billion-dollar companies, and I don't think they'd mind paying a $500 fine a day, and that's going to aggravate all the neighbors around it. I think we need. I'm not for this anyway, but I think we got to have something in place that we can shut these places down if they violate our rules. I mean, these people don't mind paying $1,000 a day in fines probably, if that means they can keep making billions of dollars a year. So I just don't see how, we got to have something in place to shut them down, or we got to have something strong in place versus just a $500 fine.
Code enforcement, we'd go through the process just like any other potential violation.
Yeah, and let me say this, you start out with a fine, but ultimately, if
they've refused to comply, you could seek equitable relief in Superior Court, where you would actually try to get an injunction to shut them down. I mean, that you don't start out with that, but that's ultimately where you could end up. And that, if you went that route, that probably would put pressure on them to comply. And if not, you would. Now, I'm not going to say that's easy, simple. I mean, when you get in court, it can drag out for. Yeah, I mean, I understand. I'd be concerned with the citizens that live next door, and these things are running 80, 90 decibels. And right, I understand. They calling us, and we're sitting there, sorry, it's tied up in court for 3 years.
Yeah,
And I don't want to mislead you to say that's an instant, snap your fingers. Yeah, no, I understand, but I'm trying to protect the citizens.
I mean, there shouldn't, before you get a CO, you're going to get a report that's spelled out from a third party that they're in compliance. By that point, it's pretty well designed and in place, so I don't see where they're going to drastically change that. It's going to be internal. I mean, everything is internal to the building except the generators. Generators would be done or tested at certain hours, and there's ways to mitigate those noises as well. But I think once it's in place, they're not going back and, I'm not going to say never, but I mean, I think we'd have an okay time doing the enforcement aspect once it's built, because we know what it's going to do once it's built. So
I think you should think of it as a heavy industrial use, but just like a concrete batch plant, an asphalt plant, anything else that's going to have noise. And I mean, our experience going to visit, they don't compare to that. But I mean, a batch plant or a rock crusher or any of those type things are far more impactful on a neighborhood to what we saw. I mean, I worked in a community with an international paper plant. We had hundreds of logging trucks coming through every day. I mean, the nice thing about these facilities, you don't have a traffic issue after they're built. You don't have that coming in and out. But yeah, we had a paper plant and a steel mill when I worked in Georgetown. And you talk about an impact to a community far greater and far less added to the community when it comes to property tax revenue and other things. But I think you need to think in those terms, and I've talked to James too. This is also a good lesson for us maybe to go back and look at our industrial parks and other things, what standards we have, because I think we could actually have an industry come here that could be far more disruptive, and have we really addressed those things for them as well.
I know when cryptocurrency, the mining was coming before this board, peanut dryers were a common comparison certain times of year. Of course, the foliage is off the trees mostly. I mean, that's pretty loud too. So I know that's not all year, 24 hours a day, but it is, what I heard at the Meta site was less than a peanut dryer.
So I appreciate Mr. Newkirk's comments, and I don't necessarily disagree with him. However, I would like to remind everybody here that what we're looking at doing is creating overlay districts to where these things will only be permitted in certain portions of the county. And the intent here is to make sure that they are not put next to a residential neighborhood, and that they're not going to go and use up ag land to put a data center on it. If you look at this overlay that's up here right now, this area that down the southern portion or the southwest portion of the county, that's down there by the industrial park on 301. The place just to the north of that is the Gateway Industrial Park on 301. If you continue up and follow that road up to the north, that other area is the airport. And I can tell you that the airport, you can't just stick anything out there. You would have to have something that is associated with aerospace industry before they would let you just to go and you just couldn't put a data center on that property. The only place that is really that is not already labeled as an industrial commercial area is this area in the southeastern portion of the county. And, we can put those overlays in place to say this is where you're going to put this and this is where you will not put these things. And that will help to deal with the noise. Now, I can tell you, just like Mr. Eldridge said, I think if you look at your zoning and you say that we're going to zone this just like we would any other commercial or industrial property, and you're only going to allow it in areas that you would allow commercial or industrial property, it eliminates a lot of those concerns for noise. The data center that we went and saw, I can tell you I ran a noise meter next to it. And standing right next to the fence, it ran at 60 decibels. I've also been up to the cryptocurrency mine up in Swainsboro. I can tell you it's much louder than that. And right now, there is an ordinance in this county that will allow you to build a cryptocurrency mine by right. Is that correct?
It was conditional use.
Okay, so, but you could still come before this board and request to put one of those in place today. So and again, the intent here is not to make this to where you could show up and put this in without some scrutiny involved. So, thanks, James.
I would like to say, we're here now trying to make up the zoning ordinance where it's gonna make the citizens safe. And we are dictating where they can go, how they can come, and it's not gonna be any detriment to the citizens. It's just like the chairman said. And when we did go up there, he was the only one who climbed that high hill. None of us did. We sat down and we couldn't hear it, and he was up there and he couldn't hear it. And actually we have not had anybody come and look at us for a data center. We're just trying to make sure when they do come, our citizens will be safe from any harm or any noise or any water problems. We're making sure it's going to be right when it comes. It's not going to be anything that they just going to come and just destroy our community. And I hope the citizens understand that. It's a lot of stuff going on out there in the air that's saying it's this and it's that, but we're not going to let anything come to Bullock County that's going to disrupt life and going to make things bad for Bullock County. This is why we're here. This is why James is up here now presenting this. And I hope the citizens understand that. Thank you, James.
James, could you put these two on the overhead right there for me? These are just a couple of things that nobody's brought up yet. And it's something I forgot about. This past election that we had a question on the ballot in May that asked this question. And as you can tell, if we can get that up, you'll see the responses, what the citizens of this county do and do not want. And that's what I intend to uphold. I'm not going to sit up here and tell the citizens that I'm more smarter than the citizens out here. The citizens elected me, and I'm going to do what I can to protect them. Now, one of them that you'll see, I think, is the red one right there. That's the Republican ballot. And it said, should elected officials allow the building of data centers in Bullock County? And the people of this county, by 76.02%, said we do not want them in Bullock County. And then Democrats had that same question on theirs, and they were a lot more straight up. Should data centers come to Bullock County? And 77.75% of the citizens of the Democrat Party that voted said no. And I think that's what we need to be looking at. Not what we want to do up here. We are elected to serve the citizens of this county. And that's what the citizens of the county said. And that's what I'm going to push and fight for until we get this done. Thank you.
And again, I appreciate your comment, and you can't argue with this vote. However, I will tell you that in discussions that I've had around this county, there's a multitude of people that have told me that, yes, they voted yes on that question. But after looking at data, listening to facts about this issue, they have changed their mind since then. So I think that, are we elected to serve the people? Absolutely. part of that service is to look at the facts of every issue and consider them. And I'll bring them before the people here. And then we will make those decisions. I've said it before. We're not charged with making easy decisions. We're charged with making hard decisions. So I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate your honesty saying how you feel about the issue. And that's fine. You know, we'll continue to work on this.
Well, I say let's put it on the ballot every 2 years, and whenever it goes to a yes vote, then we'll start talking.
I don't think that's the way it's going to work.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say this. Oh, James, you go ahead. I ain't gonna ask you any questions. Oh, I live right in between both of them industrial parks. Probably 500 yards from my house is W.R. Griffin Peanut Company, Tillman and Deal, Reeves Asphalt Plant, Concrete Crusher. I'm well versed in noise of all kinds, and every one of these entities I just mentioned is people making a living. And at this point, I'm not for or against, and I've stated that I won't get to vote on it anyway. But I do think some of the voting and some of the things that was said out of not having the knowledge that we're trying to get everybody right now. And to Mr. Newkirk, I appreciate his comments, but I can't remember. I know somebody in here knows how many people voted. Was it 7,000 or something like that? Well, that's not the majority of 85,000 people in Bullitt County. That's just the ones that happened to show up that day. And there's been issue after issue, which James is trying to go through about water usage and all that. And we all learning right along with everybody else, because you can ask somebody that's for them, and then they're going to tell you all the goodies, and you can ask somebody against them, and they're going to tell you all the baddies. And so we're trying to find a neutral ground. Chairman Bennett has been with some of the other commissioners and went and listened to it. I was involved on the cryptocurrency. I went and listened to them. Yes, they were noisy. My understanding, these are not noisy. But I encourage everybody to get the knowledge, because me and Commissioner Newkirk was talking before the meeting. And as adamant as he is in his direction, I'm adamant in the other direction. I'm not going to stand here and vote to just pure out deny data centers without having the knowledge of why we're going to deny them. I mean, and all the moratoriums, I'm for. Let the commissioners do their job. Get your knowledge. Somebody come up to the podium last time, so that was our job to go find it, the lady with the water. So that was our job to go find it. Go find out about the data centers and do your job as a commissioner, then you vote. If it's a good thing for Bullitt County, you vote for it. If it's a bad thing for Bullitt County, you vote against it. But don't hide behind these moratoriums. Do your job. That's all, that's just, and that's on every moratorium. I mean, we all grown men, signed up for the job. Do your job. That's all I got to say.
So unless there's any further comment on this, we're going to continue down through the agenda here. So next thing that's on the agenda is our public hearing here on the proposed property tax increase. This will be our third and final hearing on this. Before we open the floor at public comments, I've got a couple slides I'd like to show that I've presented at the other hearings as well. We'll go through this data, and then we'll open the floor at public comments. You can go ahead and go to the next slide down. So this is what we're going to talk about here real quick. We're going to go through Tabor and what it is, and then how House Bill 80 or 581 affects that, and then we'll talk about some of the tax rate changes for this year. Next slide, please. So Tabor is the acronym for what's called the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, otherwise known as Official Code of Georgia Law 48-532.1. It was passed in 1999. The idea was to protect the taxpayer of the 159 counties of the state of Georgia from indirect increases that are caused by inflation of property within the county. So it's very simple in what it says. It says that the county commissions, who are the tax levying authority in a county, that if there's an increase in the tax digest, the governing body must roll back the millage rate to ensure that tax revenue remains the same as the previous year. So with that, there's no inclusion for inflation or anything like that. It's flat. So if you're taxing to generate a revenue of $10 million and at that millage rate, your tax digest increases to $11 million, you're supposed to roll back your millage rate to make it to where the county brings in $10 million in revenue. If the county does not do that rollback to make it equal to the previous year, you have to have 3 public hearings to allow public input. And that's what we're doing today, is we're having that 3rd hearing so that we can get public input on this. Next slide, please. So this is our tax digest comparison. In 2026, you can see that our tax digest brought in $3.8 million, or excuse me, $3.8 billion. This year, the net digest is $4.2 billion. Now, that property in there, that's a lot of money. I know it's a lot of zeros, is taxed at 40%. That also includes all the property in there that that's in an ag exempt or otherwise exempt, or homestead exemptions and everything else as well. So last year our millage rate was 11.35. So this year, without a rollback, our millage rate would be 11.826. But this does not include the floss that we'll talk about here in a second. So like I've told some folks over the last week, Tabor's binary. It's like being pregnant. You either are or you ain't, okay? So you either do the full rollback or you have a hearing to come up here and talk about what's going on. So that's what we're doing today. Again, next slide, please. All right, this is where it gets fun. Next slide. So in 2024, the state legislature passed House Bill 581 that provides 2 things. The first thing it does, it provides for what's called a statewide floating homestead exemption. What that does is if your property was in a homestead exemption in 2024, your assessed value on your property was locked in at that 2024 rate. If you put it in a homestead exemption after 2024, it locks it in at whatever the assessed value it was of that rate. Now, I can tell you that there's a lot of confusion about this, and it's very frustrating for me because while the state made this law, the state also dictates by law what goes on this form right here. This is the form that they send out to you. And it says on this form, it has 2 things. It has your 2025 assessed value and your 2026 assessed value. Neither of these, if your property, like this is my actual form right here, this property is in a homestead exemption. It doesn't say anything on here about your property is in a homestead exemption and this is the value that you're going to pay taxes on. It just says this is your 2026 value, and it actually says on here that that's what your property taxes will be assessed off of. Again, this is something that the state dictates that you put this out, you don't add to it, you don't take away from it, this is it. And I think it's caused a lot of frustration for folks because we tell them that, hey, if your property's in a homestead exemption, that's not the value. It's the truth. But the only way you can get that actual number is to go to the tax assessor's office and ask them, hey, what's my assessed value of my property if it's in a homestead exemption? So the other thing that it does, well, first off, Bullitt County, we fully embraced House Bill 581. We didn't opt out of it. And that was the only way you could get out of this was to stand up and say, we're just not going to do it. We didn't do that. We felt like it was a good thing for the community. And I can tell you that it saved people money last year and it's going to save people money this year as well. The other thing that it allowed us to do was if you did not opt out, the county could then put on a referendum to put what they call floating local option sales tax on the ballot. We did that last year in November. It passed overwhelmingly in the county. I believe it was 2-1 that it passed. So originally, when they passed this law, though, they said you had to collect a full year of that sales tax before you could apply it to offset your property taxes. They went back this last year and they passed a law called Senate Bill 33 that then allowed us to use any proceeds that we had or any revenue from this sales tax to offset property taxes this year. Next slide, please. So the Tabor and Floss do not take the other law into consideration. So Tabor says, again, if you don't do the full rollback, you have to have a tax hearing, okay? It doesn't say after you apply your floss to it, if you have a reduction in your taxes, you don't get to have a hearing. It says if you don't do a rollback by law, it's considered a tax increase and you will have hearings. Like I said previously, I won't do well in prison, therefore we're going to have hearings because my responsibility as the chairman is to make sure that we follow the law. So that's what we're going to do. The floss does provide an offset in your property taxes that's not considered in Tabor. Next slide, please. So if you look at this, what this slide shows is what our millage rate was in 2025, which was 11.35. This 0.476 was what we would need to roll back our millage rate to get a full, the full rollback for Tabor. The next number on that slide is the millage rate that will be offset with the flossed. Okay, so when you subtract the 0.47 from it, you get a 1.09 mil reduction in your property taxes, which is going to bring you to what our proposed property taxes are of 10.26. Next slide, please. This is some historical data here for everybody to see what property taxes have done in Bullitt County since 2017. Again, I just want to emphasize that in 2026, our property tax millage rate was 11.35, and what we are proposing is a property tax millage rate of 10.26. Okay? I know there's a lot of confusion with this, and again, the state says that if we don't do a full rollback, we're going to have a hearing. So we're going to have a hearing. I've also talked to some people that have said that, well, you put out this notice that says you're going to raise taxes by 8.26%. So according to Tabor, we have to put that information out. Well, it also says that our millage rate that's being proposed is 10.26, which is about 1 1/10 less than what it was last year. Next slide, please. This slide just shows the overall floss savings in the county. If you look at this in the top column, it says there was about $5.8 million that was collected from that sales tax in the first 5 months of the year that's being applied to the rollback. With that, that means that the median real property savings for somebody in the county because of floss is about $103. If your property is assessed at a higher value, you're going to save more money. If it's assessed at a lower value, you're going to save less money. With that, do you have these over there still? Okay. I printed this form out, and what it is, it breaks down the assessed value of property taxes. It starts at, glasses are helpful here, $150,000, and it goes up to $600,000 in $50,000 increments. So you can look at this and say, okay, if this is the assessed value of my property, you can make an estimate of what your property taxes will be and how much you're saving with the floss. Next. Thank you, Crystal. So, I'm not going to hide from the fact that according to Tabor, we're increasing property taxes. But I can tell you that the net overall is you're going to see a decrease in your property taxes this year. So two things can be correct at the same time. We're going to follow the law and do what the law says, and we're going to work to make sure that people save taxes or save money on their taxes. Next slide, please. So these next couple slides, all they do is they break this down by different groups of property or different property classifications, and it shows increases and decreases. So this is for everybody in the county, for every type of property in the county, whether it's in some type of exemption or not. 71% of the folks there, that's represented by the light blue on there, will see a decrease in their property taxes. The red on there represents folks that won't see any kind of change at all. It's about 3%, and we know there's about 25% of the folks in the county that will see an increase in their property. That is mostly attested to the fact there's been some type of improvement in their property over the last year. Next slide, please. So this is for folks that have your property in a homestead exemption. We know that there's about 92% of the folks that have a homestead exemption that will see a decrease in their property taxes, okay? There's another 2% that won't see any change at all. And again, there's about 5% of those folks that will see an increase, and that's attributed to the fact that they've made some type of improvement to their property that has increased the value of it. I also note that we know that there are about 4,000 properties in Bullock County right now that are eligible for a homestead exemption that are not enrolled in a homestead exemption. I would encourage you, if you do not have your property in a homestead exemption and it's eligible for it, to put it in a homestead exemption. This will save you money. Now, I will also tell you that it costs the county money when you do it, but I want you to get that protection. So if your property is not in a homestead exemption, please take the time to go by and talk with the tax assessor's office and see about getting it enrolled. It'll literally take you about 5 minutes to do it. Next slide, please. So if your non-homesteaded properties, about 63% of them will see a decrease in their property taxes. Next slide, please. This is your CUVA property, your conservation use, or your ag exempt properties. There's about 93% of them that will see a decrease in their property taxes. The folks, the 221 that are seeing an increase, have made some type of improvement to that property. Next slide, please. So without the floss, Bullock County would see an increase in their property taxes of about 8.17%. The floss is protecting you. It's working as it's supposed to. The other thing is, just down here, just like I said before, the millage rate last year was 11.35. This year, the proposed millage rate that we're going to vote on this morning is 10.26. That is a net decrease in your property taxes. I've heard the argument about, it could have been lower. Absolutely, it could have. But I can tell you that in order to do that, it would have meant that there would have been a reduction in services in the county. We can sit here and we can argue about what you should cut. I think that argument's already been made. What we're talking about today is a millage rate. So, next slide. Actually, that's it. So at this time, I'll take a motion to open the floor to public comment. Got a motion from Mr. Rushing and a second from Mr. Simmons. All in favor, open the floor to public comment. Motion carries unanimously.
Richard Locke.
I don't understand the property taxes. In 2022, our property taxes were $2,300 a year. Last year, our property taxes were over $6,000. We haven't changed anything, nothing's different. We're in the homestead. How does it go up $4,000 a year?
Without looking at your specific stuff, I cannot give you an answer here. I'm happy to sit here after the meeting and discuss that with you. And we can, if we need to, we'll go to the tax assessor's office and pull up your specific data if that would be helpful to you.
Because we live on a private road, a half mile down a private road. We have no water, no sewer, we have no county facilities, yet it keeps going up.
And I'm in the same boat, sir.
$4,000?
I'm in the same boat as far as services go. I can tell you that since I bought my property when I retired in the Army in 2021, moved back here, I've seen significant increases in my properties, or in the property assessed value of my property, and in my taxes as well, too. And that's part of the reason why I'm sitting here today, was because I wanted to do something about it.
I just would like to see, something, why is $4,000? Why? you know? And I understand you can't address the specifics, but all our neighbors, everybody around us is in the same thing. Nobody's done anything different.
Well, I can tell you that part of that is just because of the inflationary cost of goods and services, okay? You know, part of that is because, well, let's talk about inflation first. In 2020 and 2021, our federal government printed a bunch of money. It devalued the dollar significantly. By devaluing the dollar, it made it to where everything became more expensive. On top of that, you just had lots of inflation. I can tell you that the purchase of a fire truck, we bought a fire truck in 2025 here at the county, and I think we paid $470,000 for it. What's a fire truck running today, Ben?
Over $750,000 for the basic.
$725,000. And I mean, we're not talking a Cadillac fire truck. We're talking basic entry-level fire truck. The cost of EMS equipment, every bit of it has probably gone up by 60%. You know, these are services, and I get it. You know, it's not something that you use every day, but it's something that we have to make available to people here. The cost of diesel right now, $5.25 a gallon. You know, the county pays for that stuff. And in order to have those services available, whether it's fire, EMS, law enforcement, whatever it is, if you use it every day or not, we still have to have it available for you.
Well, you don't have to explain. I understand inflation. I'm paying $5. I have a diesel truck. I'm paying $5+ for diesel. I'm paying extra for everything else. And, you know, I'm really not getting any benefits out of the county. I don't understand unless my house burns down.
We still have to have those services available, though. And part of that is, I get it, you know, you don't ever want to use a fire truck. You don't ever want to have to call fire. You don't ever want to have to call EMS. But we have to make sure those things are available for you so that when you do need them, you can have them.
So that's all that signed up, but if there's anyone else out there.
Again, sir, if you'd like to stay, I'd be happy to sit down and we can talk about your stuff.
That's all that signed up, but if there's anyone else out there.
That's everybody that signed up to speak. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to come up that did not sign up and speak?
Good morning, everyone. My name's Gabe George. I'm a local college student. I'm from the area. And I was more intrigued this morning by the data center concept of everything. And y'all kind of hit on it very well, what they are and how y'all plan to handle them. But I kind of wanted to propose the question of why do we need them in this county, or who gets to have them in this county? Because if there's 139 counties, like you said, in Georgia, and 138 of them are going to have them.
Well, it's 159.
And it's gone up since 1999 or whatever your example is.
No, there's 159 counties in the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
And I think that the piece with this that folks tend to forget is, and we have this discussion every time we rezone a piece of land, okay? And you hear it from local homeowners all the way up to folks that want to do something new with their property. This is my property, and I should be able to do with it as I please. At the same time, you know, you buy a piece of land and you decide that you want to put a data center on it. Well, why does the county have the right to say what you can and cannot do with your land? Now, I can tell you through zoning, the law in Georgia says that through zoning, you can limit that for the good of the community.
Yeah. That was kind of my next question here was like, okay, so the green zones, I understand is where we're saying they can go. Mm-hmm. Well, who owns the green zones then at that point? Because if you're not in a green zone, but I own a field out here towards Toledo area, and I'm saying, well, why can't I do it? So we're going to pick and choose who gets to have that commerce or who gets to have that money? Why does the green get it? How can you structure it here but say, okay, everywhere else it can't go? Mm-hmm. Or 20 years it works like that, but then this is a whole new board with people my age, and they're like, well, we can't keep it in the bag anymore. and it's everywhere. The reason I kind of have this knowledge is I've had 2 internships traveling the state of Georgia. I've traveled probably 20,000 miles in the summer, and I go from Atlanta to Valdosta to here, and it's just these places that, and specifically North Georgia, like in Atlanta, where you have 40, 50 data centers within 10 square miles, and it's like, what is the benefit? So I just don't want to see a county like this go to waste because we're putting a data center up and we don't have, and it's not going to someone in the county, because I don't think anyone in this room, I could be wrong, but this is a general assumption, is looking to build a data center tomorrow or has the manufacturing build a data center tomorrow. We bought up, concrete and pecan dryers and stuff like that. Well, we're a rural community. I know someone who can start a pecan farm, but I don't know someone who can start a data center. So they're not coming from Bullitt County. My parents live in Effingham County. You know what they just did over there with the $20 billion open AI project. That's 1.5 miles as a bird flies from my parents' home. Like, that's not okay. And those people aren't coming from Effingham, and these people aren't going to come from Bullitt. So I'm asking, I'm just confused on, where do we draw that line? Why is it, if we're going to allow it, but we're going to say, okay, it's going to be super niche, eventually someone's going to overstep that. Or like Nick was pointing out, they're just going to pay it. And then the pros and cons going through this, I like the idea about downcast lighting. I thought that was a good idea. I like the closed loop idea. I like being on commercial highways. But the environmental issues, the power issues, Georgia Power having to restructure everything down here, clearing land, But yeah, I just wanted to propose that question, I guess, of why? Think it through more to just, okay, well, we're chasing a dollar, we're chasing a bottom line, or we're chasing green figures for the next 15 years. Well, I have to replace y'all, and we have to replace y'all. And if there's going to be 158 counties in Georgia with them, where are we chasing a dollar, or are we actually helping the infrastructure of the county or the state or the federal government? What is our purpose? And like Nick said, with that proposal of showing that vote of the majority said no, which you brought up the point that, well, it's not 85,000 people. You can't feasibly ask 85,000 people how they feel about this unless you're going to take a couple months to do so. So yeah, it's a very tough question. So I just wanted to, nobody ever went over why Bullitt County and who in Bullitt County needs to build a data center. So I don't know if you have any questions, but I just want to propose that to the grander room to kind of that thought piece moving forward.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice, 3 times. Yes, ma'am.
One of the great things about Bullitt County and the citizens, I think, is how independent most citizens in Bullitt County are, and they don't like to be dependent on someone else or something else. And I think overall what's happening with the data centers is they are smart enough to understand that if they can create some sort of dependency upon them, then they're in. And I think what you guys are doing are saying, okay, data centers can create this great place where you don't have to pay land taxes, what we're talking about now. So therefore, you're going to get a bunch of people in Bullitt County becoming dependent on data centers because of the inability to pay land taxes. I don't want to create a place where we are dependent upon a data center.
So to your point, I absolutely agree. However, I can tell you that we all know, sitting on this board, that if we don't have commercial and industrial growth in this county that will pay the taxes in this county, your individual property taxes will go up. We know that most homeowners in this county, with the property taxes they pay, they consume more in services from the county than they do what they pay in taxes. So, I don't think we're ever going to be in a situation like some of these counties where you have a data center that comes in and it completely eliminates your property taxes. And I'm not looking at it like that. I just look at it like, if you have something, we built an asphalt, or we zoned for an asphalt plant out on 301 a few months back. Okay, well, that adds value to this community. It adds It's something else that we have here in the community. It adds to the tax base. This is one more thing to add to the tax base. I don't think that we should put all our eggs in one basket, whether it's a data center, a car plant, or anything else. But if we don't grow our tax base, the county continues to grow. We can't build a wall around it. So the only thing that you can do to decrease your property taxes is reduce services. I'm not talking about reducing services in the rec department, because not having T-ball is not going to make that big a difference as far as what we pay in taxes. What we will do is see a reduction in fire, EMS, and law enforcement, because that is where the majority of our budget goes. You know, we just went this year and we decreased our fire ISO rating from a 4 to a 4Y. For most people in this county, that's going to result in a significant decrease in their homeowners insurance. Do you pay a little bit more in taxes to have that fire protection? Yeah. But I guarantee you that if you start looking at what you pay in taxes for it, you're saving money there. So there's a trade-off to this. And I don't think there's a single person on this board that's saying, hey, we need to go out and get a data center like what they've got in Effingham. I quite frankly don't think that you're ever going to see a hyperscale data center in Bullitt County. I just don't think that we have the capacity or the infrastructure for it. But I don't, at the same time, I also look at it like, if you give me a choice between a car plant and a data center and the environmental trade-offs that come with that, I'll take a data center. So, you know, so if we're going to have commercial and industrial growth here, what are we going to get? And if we don't have some of that and we don't plan ahead and target those things to certain locations, I don't know how we fix the issues that we have with our taxes here. So I appreciate your comments. I absolutely do. But I think that there's a middle ground somewhere with this. Any other public comments? Hearing none, I'm going to I'm going to call for a motion to close the floor to public comments on this tax hearing. Do I get a second? I got a motion from Mr. Rushing and a second from Mr. Davis. All in favor of closing the floor to public comments? Motion carries unanimously. Now that we've closed the floor to public comments for tax hearing, at this time I'll recognize those citizens who have signed up to address the board for public comments for our regular meeting. Once your name is called, please come to the podium, state your name for the record, and make your comments. All speakers who are recognized will be allotted 5 minutes.
Ms. Lenore Harden.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to thank you all for the town hall meeting last week as well. I'm Lenore Hardin on Banks Creek Church Road, and I represent the community from Rocky Ford Road to Ponderosa in our quest for road paving. And oftentimes, we request things or have needs of our public servants, but more often than not, we criticize and complain, but sometimes we fail to give credit where credit is due. And this morning, I would like to say that I brought an issue to the attention of one of the county officials at the town hall about how the overgrowth was impeding the roadway. And that official made a promise to remedy that situation, address it within the next couple of working days, and they did just that. And I'd like to thank Mr. Mitch Johnson for following through on the commitment he made to the community. Thank you.
So we'll move into our consent agenda now. I believe we've got about 14 items on the consent agenda here. We'll go through them and then we'll discuss what we can do with them at the end. Number one, approve the minutes from the emergency meeting held on Friday, July 31st, 2026. Number two, approve the minutes from Tuesday, August 4th, 2026. Number three, approve a contract with the Exemption Project Incorporated, doing business as True Roll for a homestead exemption eligibility audit, monitoring, and change detection system. Number four, approve the purchase of Bullard thermal imaging cameras for the Bullitt County Fire Department from ProFire and Tactical in the amount of $35,304. Number five, approve the purchase of 2 sets of Homatro rescue tools for the Bullitt County Fire Department from NAFCO for the amount of $93,408. Number six, approve task order FY27 ROW-E01 from Johnson, Merriman, and Thompson in the amount of $22,925 to provide right-of-way acquisition services associated with the Metz Road Drainage and Road Repairs Project to be funded through T-SPLOST and the Georgia Department of Community Affairs Hurricane Disaster Relief Grant. Number seven, approve the purchase of a monolithic concrete foundation furnished and installed by Perkins Concrete Finishing for the amount of $29,484 for the Bullitt County Morgue. Number eight, approve the purchase of 2 2025 Ford F-150 police responder trucks for the Bullitt County Correctional Institute for the amount of $119,928. Number nine, approve the purchase of a morgue cooler from Moby Medical Dodge in the amount of $30,076.80. Number 10, approve the purchase of 4 Stryker Stair Pro chairs from Stryker Medical in the amount of $21,611.40. Number 11, approve a grant application to the Georgia Transportation Infrastructure Bank. Number 12, approve the purchase of equipment for new fire engines from NAFCO for the amount of $93,562. Number 13, approve the purchase of 4 Zoll advanced cardiac monitors from Zoll Medical for the amount of $93,635.68. Number 14, approve a contract with Pape Dawson in the amount of $30,375 to approve professional services necessary to revise the active speed detection device permit dated August 20th, 2026 to be funded through T-SPLOST. We can approve these items collectively, or we can move from any item to new business for further discussion. What would y'all like to do this morning?
I'd like to pull number 3 and number 8 out, please.
Number 3 and number 8 going to new business. Any other items? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of items number 3 and number 8.
So moved.
Got a motion from Mr. Davis.
Second.
Got a second from Mr. Rushing. All in favor of approving the consent agenda with the exception of item 3 and 8, say aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, we'll address item number 3 on the consent agenda before we go into new business, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? True Roll is a company, nationwide company that polices homestead exemptions. Used to be, before 581 passed, a homestead exemption saved you about $40 a year. Now it saves you $200 a year, $300 a year. It could save you $1,000 a year. This is just a way to police to make sure that people are getting homestead exemptions are entitled to homestead.
How many properties do you think we have in the county that?
There's no way to tell.
Because I just hate to see it spend $100,000
Oh,
to pick up.
it's not $100,000.
Well, it's $32,000 a year, it looked like for 3 years, right?
I don't know how you can guarantee, they guarantee you'll get your money back
By taxing more on the citizen.
by giving people that are claiming homestead now, that that's not entitled to it. So what you're doing, people that are entitled to homestead now are getting homestead, they're entitled to it, they're paying their taxes. But let's say me, I'm filing for homestead exemption, you're paying more for your taxes because you're paying my way that I'm not entitled to homestead.
It looks like we only get 20, is this 25 investigation reports a year? Does that mean we only doing 25 properties a year?
No, that's all properties.
Okay.
I don't know how this works. It's a nationwide database they got.
Okay. Because in here it says it's 25 investigation reports delivered a year.
No,
And that's why I was trying to figure out what an investigation report is.
No, it's county, it's all property owners.
Okay. And also, it's been brought up this morning that we have 4,000 homeowners that aren't getting homestead. Are we reaching out to them and trying to help them save
If
money?
they hadn't applied by now, it's been on the news. Y'all said it 100,000 times. If they haven't applied by now, it's their fault.
Okay.
And they've got, deadline is April 1st. So and they can start applying now, would be in effect for the 2027 tax year. Sign-ups between January 1st and April 1st. We're taking them now just to make sure they get them for next year.
Okay.
But it's been in the paper. Mr. Bennett said it, this 581 passed. I don't know why they're not doing it. It takes about 2 minutes. When you do apply for it, just make sure your driver's license or a voter registration card shows your primary address. That's one thing you'll need.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Anything else?
Mr. Newton, didn't you say that we would recoup this money by this process that we spent?
That's what they say. All the other counties that have had it are recouping money.
Basically, we're making the homestead exemption, those that are not using it correctly are defrauding the taxpayers that are using it correctly.
Correct.
And this is the case then.
Correct. And the law is the first warning, you just recoup the money they saved for that year. Let's say in 2 years, you come and apply for homestead again, you're defrauding, you know you're not entitled to it. You can be fined. By state, we can fine them for that too, so. And that, like I said, used to be regular homestead exemption saved $40 a year. So if we had 500 people out there that are getting homestead exemption, it made a difference. But now with it's 581, you've got some people saving $1,000 a year being in homestead based on the current value versus their 2024 value.
Is this anything we can do in-house?
We've tried it, but then you'd have to have somebody go through obituaries every single day, see who died, who hadn't died.
You got people gaming it, I'm sure. They've got a rental house here and they'll put it in a spouse's name or whatever. I mean, with being in a college town, I mean, people, if they're going to do it, they're going to throw that rental house in a homestead if they can get away with it.
That's right. Then you got people at Tybee Island. We've seen a few so far that will call the counties when they apply for a homestead. It just doesn't look right, and they've already got a homestead in another county. Anything else? Thank y'all.
Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a motion, please.
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion from Mr. Davis and a second from Mr. Simmons. All in favor of approving this item? Motion, Mr. Davis. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item number 8. This is to approve the purchase of 2 2025 Ford F-150 police responder trucks for the Bullock County Correctional Institute in the amount of $119,928. I believe we got Mr. Warden Tool up here to discuss this for us.
Yes, sir. What can I answer for you?
It says this is a transport truck, are we, and I know one thing that said in there that y'all needed it for the dirt roads and all that stuff. Whenever I think of transporting, we just kind of stay in the city transporting to and from. Is this like the work vehicles that we take out into the county to cut grass and all that stuff, or is this just transporting to and from?
Yes, sir. So kind of give you a background idea on that. Last year, we had to go pick an inmate up from a detail site that was on a dirt road. Our current vehicles could not navigate that dirt road. So we decided to go with pickup trucks so we could transport those inmates back to the CI.
Okay, that's why I just wanted to confirm. It just didn't seem right in the write-up. That's why I wanted to ask you questions.
Yes, sir. Anybody else?
Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'm gonna call for a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve from Mr. Simmons. Got a second. Got a second from Mr. Rushing. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. That brings us into new business for the day. Mr. Corey Kemp, I believe you're gonna come up and talk to us about some generators. And if y'all don't mind, instead of making Mr. Kemp stand up and sit down a couple times, we're just gonna have him do all of his items in order, and then we'll come back to the airport. So, Mr. Kemp, the floor is yours.
Good morning. I'm looking for a motion to approve a contract with CNR Industries for installation of a generator at Fire Station 13 in the amount of $38,623. It was sealed bids to about 13 industries, only 6 response, and this was the lowest bidder who met all qualifications.
Didn't we just to get a grant last year or something that we put generators at all the fire stations? Or what did we do, wasn't it last year, year before, we had a bunch of generators installed?
The grants that we submitted, well, before I started working here in '23, the grants was submitted to me when I worked at the state. They have not yet come back from FEMA yet.
I thought we put a bunch of generators at fire stations last year.
We did. We put some at 2, 3, and 9.
Okay, that wasn't through a grant?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought it was a grant, okay.
Any other questions about that? Yes, sir.
Does this include the service contract?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It'll take care of everything.
Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, can I get a motion, please?
To approve, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion to approve from Mr. Simmons, from Mr. Mosley, and a second from Mr. Simmons. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. I'm gonna skip number 2 for now and go to item number 3. This is Mr. Corey Kemp again, doing another generator.
Yes, sir. Same circumstances. I'm looking for a motion to approve a contract with CNR Industries for $50,105 for installation of a generator at EMS Station 1, and that will cover both sides of the building.
I forgot to ask on the first one, is this coming out of SPLOST, or what money is this paying for?
Fire Chiefs is capital projects, his sponsor, right?
Yes, EMS is coming out of SPLOST. The one at Station 13 is going to come out of the tax allocation district money.
Any other discussion on this item?
These generators?
I would have to pull it, but I think one of them is correct, but the other one is not.
Can I get a motion on this item, please?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got a motion from Mr. Simmons and a second from Mr. Mosley. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. And then item number 4, Mr. Kemp.
Number 4 is a motion to approve and accept the state Homeland Security grant that I applied for the elections department. I'll let Ms. Sandra explain what it is.
Nice.
You're welcome.
What we are asking for is some extra security for our poll workers. So these devices will be used at different polling sites as well as in the election office. As you guys know, currently, we have been pretty safe here in Bullock County on election days during election seasons. However, with the temperament around the country, we have been tasked with ensuring that our voting, precincts are safer. So with that, we partner with Corey to help us to identify some grants to make those things possible. What we're looking at, it's called REST, and it's an alert badge that a lot of the school systems use now. You can notify, your local authorities or just the election staff itself, like our office, with, very discreetly, just a push of the badge. If, things are as if you need to contact those people. You want me to talk about? I just.
No.
Okay.
In the package, you will see there was a quote for 53,000. We will scale that down to match the price of the grant. So I think it had 53 badges in it. Yeah, 53 badges in it. So we'll scale it down to about 40 to make it.
So there won't be any out-of-pocket money
Correct.
for the
We'll
county?
scale it down.
Just curious, how many times have we had to call the authorities while at the polling stations in the last couple of years?
In the last couple of years, the authorities themselves, maybe once.
I'm sorry, I won't do it again.
And I say maybe once because I've only been here for a year. But I was a poll manager, and not this past election season, but the one before we had to call once. However, our poll managers have had to contact the office quite often to help to de-escalate situations.
How much, I know they're going to cover the grant up front. How much, is there any maintenance costs, upkeep costs that's going to get rolled into a general fund budget item after this? Or is this just a one-time 40,000 and we won't ever have to pay for anything about it again?
Without having the final quote in front of me, I don't want to say yay or nay. However, there's a warranty that goes along with it. And as Corey said, we're going to scale back to whatever we need to ensure that we do not exceed the amount of the grant.
Do we need to wait to see what those numbers are before we approve this?
And I just received an email from the supplier. They are traveling today. We got a quote back in October, I believe it was. And we just want to make sure that it's still the same. So as soon as he parks and is in a safe area, he's going to give me a new update. And with that, then I'll share with you guys. I'll give that copy to Corey. But we suspect that it will remain pretty close to what we were quoted in October.
Okay. I'd make a motion to table this to the next meeting just to get those final numbers.
I have a second on that.
Can you have a month?
Yeah, we can table it,
Are you sure? Be honest. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't wanna lose
I'm positive on
$20,000.
this one, yeah.
And it wouldn't have to be a month, it'd just be 2 weeks to the September meeting. And I
I
don't
was
see
about
why
to
we
say,
can't
because
put it
I'll
on
have a
there.
quote like by the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, we can't do it.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Okay. So we go with that?
Yeah, I'm good with it, yeah.
So we don't have November.
So I think the motion on the floor, just to clarify, Mr. Newkirk, is to table to our meeting on the 1st of September, is that
Yeah,
correct?
the first meeting in September, just to make sure there's no hidden costs that we don't know about.
Get a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Got a second from Mr. Davis. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 4-1. All right, we're going to circle back to the airport now. Ms. Kathy Boykin's going to come up and discuss a motion to approve the proposed scope of work and fee for the professional services by GMC, the airport consultant engineers necessary to support potential land acquisition associated with runway 24 approach obstructions in the amount of $42,547. Good morning, how are you?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm just peachy, thank you.
As Mr. Bennett, the chairman, said, I'm Kathy Boykin, the airport manager. We, every 2 years, the airport gets inspected. And back, I think it was in 2019, this particular parcel of property had 2 obstructions. Now, an obstruction is anything, when an airplane comes into land, it comes in at an angle. And they're allowed plus or minus so many feet. So an obstruction is a tree or anything that grows into that proposed approach. Like I said, I think it was back in 2019, there were 2 trees at the end of runway 24 that needed to be moved. Through the years, those have grown. And then in 2025, the inspection identified 33 current obstructions and 79 potential obstructions, that it's mandatory that we move. And there again, it's safety. We need to move the obstructions so the aircraft can come in and make use of that whole runway. Excuse me. So as part of this, I was trying to think how to best explain it. Back in 2019, we needed to cut the 2 trees. In 2023, they identified more obstructions, and we tried to purchase this property. At that point, the owners were not interested in selling. So we tried to get an easement. We tried to offer to cut the trees, just various things, and we weren't able to work out anything. In 2025, they went back and we found all these obstructions. So we were trying to figure out what to do. Well, then I guess it's been about 6 or 8 weeks ago, the owners reached out to Mr. Akins and said they are ready to sell. In addition to that, back in 2023, if we'd bought it, we would have had to cover the full cost. In the intervening years, the FAA has realized that it's necessary that we clear obstructions out of the approaches for secondary runways, which is what 624 is. So they've agreed to participate at 90%. So this, if we follow their guidelines. So the $42,547 is for the airport consultants to follow the guidelines. We have to get an appraisal, review appraisal, the surveys, and then a negotiator. So if we follow that process and we actually wind up purchasing the property, the FAA will reimburse us 90%. In addition to that, the state has now decided they will participate in removing the trees. So once we get the property, then the state will pay 75% of getting the trees removed. So I'm requesting a motion to approve allowing GMC to proceed with the land acquisition services.
Will the state, we'll get the 90% to actually buy the property too, or is that or is this just the initial that we get the 90%?
90% for the property too. All the costs, the acquisition, any attorney fees, court
So
cost
everything will be
fees.
90% if we end up with the property.
Right.
And then the state's going to chip in 75,000 to
75% to remove the trees once we have the property.
Okay.
Mr. Davis.
Mr. Akins, do we have a contract on this property?
No, we do not.
That's what this is for.
All these perks or help with this contingent upon us buying the property?
Yes, that's what this is for. There's a process you have to go through to get the reimbursement, that you have to cross all the T's and dot all the I's under the federal regulations, and I don't know that they require you, but they encourage you to engage a consultant that knows how to do all that, and that's what we've done in the past, so I would recommend it. Now, if we weren't getting any money back, we were going to have to pay the whole cost, and we wouldn't want to do this. We would try to handle it without a consultant. And we have done that in the past. Back in, I think 2014 was the last time we had to, or maybe 2010. Anyway, it's been a while, but periodically they will identify additional obstructions, and we've had to acquire several additional properties over the years and easements.
Miss Kathy, if we don't cut the trees, what will happen?
They will displace our threshold and we will not be able to use the whole runway for landing.
And that will shorten our runway from what to what, do you know?
From 4386, depending on how tall the trees are, it could be, 500 feet. So.
They do seem to be good about working with us. In other words, they don't just come right in and say, okay, we're going to shut you down, but eventually we would get to that point. But as long as we're working on it, they seem to be pretty flexible with us, but we do need to try to move forward with it.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a motion, please. I got a motion to approve from Mr. Mosley and a second from Mr. Rushing. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our final item on new business is Ms. Christy King, CFO, is going to talk about a motion to adopt a resolution to approve the millage rates for calendar year 2026.
Very simply, this is the resolution that you must approve in order to levy the taxes with the proposed millage rate of 10.26. It also will set the fire district levy millage rate at 3 mills as it has been, and the Board of Education at their adopted millage rate, which is, I believe, 10.125.
Any discussion on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request that we decouple and vote on each one of these separately. Do I need to make a motion, or is that a chairman's prerogative?
Are you talking about voting on each millage rate separately?
Yes.
Okay, well, you've got a resolution that has all three. I mean, you've got to set all three millage rates. I guess you could vote on them separately, and we'll prepare a separate resolution for each. I don't know if the Revenue Department, Christy, do you know, will they have an issue with that?
They shouldn't, because remember year before last, I believe we had to go back later and approve the school board's millage rate. So we did have a separate resolution to approve the county's millage rates and then the school board.
I guess you can do it that way, but we're going to want a resolution. So with the understanding that we will prepare a resolution for each millage rate that you adopted, which will be similar to the resolution that's in your packet. If that's how you want to do it.
So do I have a motion to vote on each one of these individually?
I just got one question. What was the proposed rollback if we would have did the rollback? I don't have that with me right now. Was it 9?
If we did a full rollback, it would be 9.485.
Okay, appreciate it.
And Christy, do you know the actual school amount too, if we're going to have to make a resolution on it?
Well, it's in the resolution you have. You can't change that one, by the way. I mean, you gotta approve whatever they recommend.
I don't think I don't have the copy of the resolution in front of me, but it is in the resolution. I believe it's 10.125.
10.125. Thank you, Venus. All right. So the motion that stands on the floor is to vote on each one of these individually. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second to vote on these individually. All in favor of voting on these individually, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion is denied, 3-2. Okay, so now we need a motion to either approve the millage rate as it stands or to do something else.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Got a motion to approve from Mr. Davis and a second from Mr. Rushing. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 4-1. And that concludes our new business. I believe the next item on the agenda is the county manager's report, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Eldridge.
Yes, sir. So the plan is to do this monthly, just to try to hit on just things that we have going on. County departments, and overall, this first one might be a little lengthy, but it'll be all right. If you could bounce up first on finance. As you realize, we just wrapped up a year. We're still going through just the way the world of finance works. Christy and her team are still getting final accruals and things like that. It's where you make the purchase prior to the end of June, and then you still got to book them and roll them back. But the numbers you see are going to be very close to what the final ones are going to come in at. Keep on going down. So again, here's revenues, as you'll see in a minute. Fortunately, revenues did come in above, because as you'll see in the next slide, when it comes to our expenditures, we did come in over. Shows good balance, but the bulk of that is in public safety, as you're well aware. And that you addressed in this budget you just passed. And if you go to the next slide, it drills in a little bit deeper to where you can see which departments went over their budgets. This is something I'm stressing across the organization. We have got to be budget conscious. We've got to pay attention. So hopeful with the adjustments you made with the sheriff, that we will stay in balance there. My plan is to do kind of separate updates to them if we see those budgets going over. If you need more, we can drill in, because it does bounce out between the jail and medical and those things. But for a budget our size, that is a lot. And the only thing I've been balancing us out is Public Works and some others. Like if you go back to the slide before, you'll see where they came in under, and that helps general government, Public Works, and others. So anyway, trying to instill that all the way through. I know Mr. Tillman's been working with everyone in public safety, and just trying to dig in and then ask for the sheriff to do the same. So as we've all just listened, money's important to everybody. So just to bounce around some other projects. One just little one that we're looking at is a legal one. Going back to, as the chairman spoke, we're getting hammered, all of us across the country, on fire trucks and how much they cost. EMS as well. And so there's actually some enterprising attorneys kicking around looking at some antitrust lawsuits against fire truck manufacturers. So we're evaluating that, whether it makes sense to participate or not. Just be honest, worried that, they put us to even lower on the list as far as getting trucks delivered, but we'll get a feel for that. But everyone can tell you, the cost of trucks, nearly doubled in just a handful of years. And delivery times, 18 months, 24 months, way out. It's 24 to 36. So it's hard to plan that way. It's hard to get up here in front of you and plan truck purchases and tell you it ain't gonna show up for 3 years. Public safety, as you know, we've grown in recent years. So we're going back through, working on some leadership training with our mid-level staff. You hire up, we hired up dozens of firefighters. Those folks have to learn how to manage and work within the organization. So we got some mid-level staff training in fire next week, and we'll be doing the same with EMS. Animal shelter, we're kicking around, kind of evaluating opportunities to do spay and neuters in-house, which would allow us to work with a vet, come in and do. Because one of the things that we just have to do out of necessity is we're adopting animals out that aren't altered, with the promise that they will bring them back. Doesn't make me the most comfortable on that. I would like everything going out the door to already be altered. So working on that if we can do it. Facilities, Hop's working on several projects. One's our stairwell out front. If you had to walk up the ramp, those were all broken out, so we're replacing the railing there. We had to scramble with, we had lightning damage at our building here. Blew out some networks, switches, some phones. We had issues with HVAC for a while. I was told South Georgia was hot. Chairman didn't exactly tell me just how hot. And until there's a little bit of a abnormality, he had me all worried about gnats, not 100 degrees
It's
every
called
day.
August. It'll be okay in about 3 more
Right.
months.
So Hop's been battling that, but doing a great job, just keeping HVAC going at all these buildings. There's a lot to keep up, and older buildings and everything else. So they've done exceptional work with that. Another cool project going on, if you haven't been out there, Fletcher Park's coming along. Those bathrooms are coming up. You can see the walls are rising now. And I've told we'll do some kind of grand opening event this fall. Recreation, brought this up on the Beacon call. I think it's a great program for families in our community. That after-school program, we got 754 kids enrolled right now. That's a good project. Cooperation between us and the school district, and we have another 120 on the waiting list, so completely full. Fall sports are coming up. We got open positions in parks and in some other places, so we're struggling on that. I appreciate the honesty I get from department heads. Just some of the wages, the applicants we get, they can't pass a background test or pre-employment drug screening. So it's tough. These entry-level jobs, it's hard to find people right now. So we're all working on ways to do better with that. I think you've all seen Honey Bowen. We got the new entrance, and now they're closing the road on the backside to improve the drainage there. And tennis court paving should be going on this week. It's been kind of slow, but it is within their contract window, so they should finish up within their contract. And if you remember, that was a complete rebuild. Ms. Mitzi's working on Civic Plus. If you'll notice, there's been some changes in our agendas and everything else. That's going to a new software platform. So we should be totally flipped over soon, maybe next month or so, kind of running parallel between Civic Plus and Granicus just till we get the historical put over. The CI, got some slides on there. This was a new one for me. I've had jails, I haven't had a correctional institute, so it's kind of fun. It's a good reminder for me, but I know it's come up a few times, just the benefits to this county. So there you can see the operational budget, 3.7. Of that, we get $1,750,000 back, so you're at like 2 for our funding. If you go to next, got an example of some projects. Well, this is actually where the staffing is. So this is just straight up salaries, looking at, $8 to $20 an hour. Does not even factor in, remember we had that $2 million out, does not factor in the healthcare savings. As you know, we're currently paying close to $26,000 per employee. So that would bump that to $6.4 million, just to give you an idea. But as far as staffing wise, as far as the assistance we get with public works, solid waste, food service, yes, some of that is for meals for the CI, but if you remember, we've got 160 inmates there. The jail has close to 400. Those 400 inmates would have to be fed one way or another, so that's a huge savings there. And same with the assistance we get across all the other departments. So it is a benefit.
I'm going to interrupt you here for just a second.
Yep.
Per inmate per day, what do we pay to feed them?
$7. I think it's on one of the next slide. So all right, here's just some projects we've done. This is another nice benefit. They do good work. A lot of what you see was done by inmate labor. Any of the renovations to our buildings, especially we've gone back through these fire stations and EMS stations. If you go to that last slide, it'll go to the $7.23 a day. That's three meals a day. It's less than a value meal at McDonald's. So anyway, I just want to hit on that. It comes up a few times, and I have been impressed. Obviously, It is 160 inmates. They're there for a reason. There will be bumps along the way here and there. But on the whole, we have a good inmate population. They're here to work. They want to be here. They do not want to be in the state prison system. So, and I'll give, making get too big of a big head, but Warden Toole and his team, they do a really good job running it. And I do invite, if you haven't been out there, go out and do the tour. He loves to do the tour and go through each of the dorms and see everybody. So, all right, that's my CI speech. HR, we continue to streamline things, look for improvements that we can do. We're changing employee access. That's the employee portal where you look at all your stuff. We're improving that. If you notice, this kind of ties back to the homestead exemption. We did an audit on dependents for health insurance. Again, just keeping people honest. We've got, a vendor, Mark III, that's kind of like our broker. We'll be going through the procurement process again this fall to look and see if there's other options out there. But at that cost, I would say that's something we, commission, need to take a look at for any ways to control that, because that is consuming a huge part of our budget. And I just think there's creative things out there that we could participate in to help that. One of them is just making us be healthy, holding us accountable. We've got a health fair. We're going to move that to a spring, but I would like to see more effort, carrot and stick, on employee participation, because as I always kind of preach, taxpayers are making a very large investment in our health. The least we can do is try to be healthy. So you'll hear that. You may hear a grumble here and there, but I just think that's something we need to do as employees of the county. Again, with the budget approval, if you remember, we did the pay plan. The second phase of that pay plan will be on the September 4th check. It's been a lot of work for HR. If you remember, we went through every little grade and position and everything else. So there was no magical button you could push. So HR, I think primarily Jolene and Kim, have done over 600 calculations, because that's how many employees we have, to make sure we're resetting all those pay rates exactly. So kudos to them. I know it's been miserable, and I've tried to stay out of over there as much as I can because I get looks. But they did a yeoman's work to make that happen. And I just want the employees to understand that's why it's taken a while to get this in place and make it happen. One thing we do have, we've got a risk management person in there, Thomas, trying to refocus on that, safety too. I hate paying insurance claims. I hate paying insurance. It's just money for nothing. So we need to refocus on that. We've had several losses that are going to come back around, and it means our experience modifier goes up, and that means our rates go up. So don't like that, so we'll refocus on those as well. Same with job listings. Yes, HR lists it, but pushing more on department heads. They need to improve the way they're advertising, share what a good place it is to work here, whatever benefits we have, what would attract folks to come work for Bullitt County. Because as they always say, the best person you can hire is the one that was not looking for a job. You've recruited them. They want to come to work for you. Sanitation, still struggling. Hope it's getting better. We've hired 2 new employees. We got 2 employees that were out on FMLA. So we've got our routes up to running 3 instead of 2. So hopefully that will help. And we also want to start trying some little changes here and there, because I know we went back to saying all 19 would be open, and as it is, but I just don't think that's tenable. So we got to work on some changes here and there. And I've started getting hit by folks out in the community too, seeing somebody had their young daughter crawling around in one of the roll-offs. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's not safe. Dowd's got an intern. starting next week? Tomorrow. So again, we're pushing on that. We got a university in town. If we can capitalize on some of that talent, we're going to. So that will be helpful. EMS, they've got openings. One of the things we have been doing just to better serve the citizens is all of our firefighters are going to be EMT trained. So we currently have 11 firefighters going through that. I think we're working on like a 3-year process. And we'll go through and everyone will be EMT trained. So that helps, so all of them can first respond on medical calls. Another big one the EMS is working on, and again, this is a service, it isn't cheap, it isn't to return or make money, but looking at implementing blood products, I think Chairman say that will save lives, but it isn't cheap. So we're working through that process as well. Cost savings, EMS, they found some state software they can do for patient reporting, going to save $14,000. So $14,000 is $14,000. And another good partnership we have is OTC, Ogeechee Tech, and they help us with training up paramedics. So we've been working through that too. We've got 4 in the program and are scheduled to graduate in December. And Lori acted like she got that fixed. I don't know if Brian's in here. She got it worked out? Yep. So good partners, and so we'll have those employees ready to come out. Engineering, the restriping is underway. You approved that a month or 2 ago. So that's a safety issue, striping our roads so you can see the lines where the road ends. We'll have a dirt road policy coming back to you next month. And while we're on that, part of my challenge to them is make it make sense. There's got to be a public benefit in addition to those on the road. So I was just playing around with Old Happy Road. The budget on that's $4 million, 33 tax parcels. If you went back, you did a special service district where they paid for it themselves for the benefit those property owners. It would require a 123 mil annual assessment for 10 years, and that's with no interest assessed or anything else. So, when you look at the cost of paving these dirt roads, it is immense. So that's part of what I think we need to look at and understand just what those costs are, and the benefit to those property owners along that road is far more than they could ever pay in their regular taxes in their lifetime. So we're working on that, get it to you. It's hard decisions for y'all. I know you get hit. I've sat in here. But, we just got to come up with some good fiscal basis and how to evaluate and make this work. And then I'm hoping by putting some of these dollars and cents on it, that people will donate their right of way and understand the benefit they're getting instead of getting a huge benefit and expecting a check on the other side too for right of way. So anyway, that was a fun little test I gave finance and Bobby. Beyond that, we had Dowd's been doing his videos, which I think have been well received. He gets a little, peanut galleries. Not everybody's happy, but I think on the most part does a good job. And we got the new light going out at 80 Nakins Pond Road. Moving along on Oliver's, GW Oliver and Cypress Lake Road, both under contract. So I think that'll make people happy and get those done. Community development. New code enforcement officer's been brought on. That person will have a heavier focus on these solid waste sites, our collection centers to work on that. If you remember, we had the transect zoning conversation a while back. That's coming back to you guys next month because we need to start getting that in place with us moving forward on the wastewater on the southern end of the county. Those need to dovetail together so you can control where things go. And we're right at the end of completing, Jane's been working on this, the $4 million EPA funding for the capacity purchase that you approved last month. Okay, I think that's it. It's a lot.
Who's got questions?
I don't have a question, but thank you for the report. I enjoyed that.
I do have one question, and it's not necessarily for you, but for Chief Tapley. I'd just like some input. About 3 weeks ago, we put a burn ban in place. I know that the state has lifted their burn ban. Like to get some input and feedback from you on what you think we need to do right now.
It depends. And I say that.
I was really hoping for a binary.
Well, I have a lot of people calling me, and if you live in the northern part of Bullitt County, everything's nice and green. At my house on Josh Steele Road, it crunches when I walk outside. You go to the south end of the county where some of y'all live, and it's as dry as it can be. You know,
It's about to be 100 for another 5 days.
It's going to be hot for quite a while, till at least probably end of September. So, you know, of course, I hate, saying no, you can't do anything with your own property. You know, we still are not stopping people that go through forestry to get burn permits through them. That's in our ordinance that we can't stop that. I think there's some benefit overall in the county, especially in the south end, for not having that. If you look on the drought monitor map, it still shows that the lower edge of Bullitt County does have a moderate drought still, or at least the last Thursday. So the new one should be coming out any time now. So I wish I had better news.
Wasn't there a fire? Wasn't there a fire right there on the other side of Bullitt County line into Bryan County, just 2 days ago?
Yes,
50, 60, 70 acres or something
was.
like that? Out there at WMA or something?
Yes, sir.
Last week, there's still been some wildfires popping up from lightning, is that right?
We actually had a lightning strike, what they think is a lightning strike at Railroad Bed Road a couple of nights ago, because there's some sharp lightning happening. Obviously, we had the couple house fires or lightning strikes on different homes and stuff. So it's it's things we can't control, but obviously we have to deal with it. Forestry took care of the one on Railroad Bed Road the other day. We had units out there, but they brought some dozers in and secured that scene before it got any bigger. But yeah, it's still in some parts, probably where some of y'all live, it's still a little dry out there. So this is supposed to be the rainy season, they say.
So some points of clarification here. We are still under a burn ban.
We are still under a burn ban.
Tell us what that means.
All right, so burn ban, local burn ban is any, I guess, let's start back over. Forestry, about 3 years ago, said they're not going to issue burn bans for any hand pile vegetation. Just have to handle that locally. We don't actually monitor that. Anybody that piles something up inside or in the back of their home or in a burn barrel, as long as they have a hose out there by it, they can set it on fire as long as they're out there watching it. What this burn ban does is those types of burns out in your house that cut your shrubs or whatever, and you pile them up, you can't burn them right now. Just wait until we can get a little bit more rain, especially in the southern ends of the county. I see no way to just do part of the county, one part of the county and the other. It's either got to be all or none, kind of deal. So, got a phone call. But, so if we could just, again, my recommendation, I'd say, a third of the county is still really dry. And again, that's up to y'all if y'all want to rescind it or not. We'll be good either way. We'll respond either way.
And to clarify, your recommendation is continue as we are right now.
I say, looking at the weather, I think I looked at it yesterday. It's supposed to be dry for the next 4 or 5 days. I would say in 2 weeks, let's reevaluate. Maybe we'll get some rain, a significant rain.
Thank you.
Can people burn with burn pits at their house with like burn barrels, or is that all off limits right now?
It's only cooking If you're doing any cooking outside, I believe is the way it's.
Okay. Just want to make sure I had somebody ask me about that.
Yeah, no burn pits, because we actually know how those usually, they'll start a little burn pit and then everybody walk inside. Next thing you know, the yard's on fire. So it's just. Yes. So whatever we do, let's just be safe about it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
FYI, the forestry department lost 2 bulldozers in fighting the fire on Bowie Driggers Road.
They did.
They're in the shop. So these events aren't cheap.
So, thank you, Chief Tapley. Just one more, and this is more of a comment than a question, but.
We can have a recommendation back to you in September.
Sure. I just want to let folks know that, it's election year. We have two candidates that are now commissioners-elect, and I just want to let everyone here know that the transition to government is something that I'm very sensitive about. I want to make sure that these two commissioners-elect, when they come on board, come the 1st of January 2027, they are up to speed with what they need to know. And I think that quite often my experience was, quite honestly, day one, I didn't know what I needed to know. So we are working actively through the county manager and the staff here to make sure that they are equipped. And it's something that I'm committed to ensure that they are ready to go on day one to better serve the people of this county. So, and I thank you for your work on that. So, any comments from the staff other than the county manager? Okay. How about the commissioners? All right. I think that wraps it up then. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Got a motion from Mr. Rushing and a second from Mr. Simmons. All in favor of adjournment? All in favor of adjournment? Motion carries unanimously. Our motion is adjourned at 10:41. Thank you all.